Hello and welcome to Rolling with Reviews. I'm Will, and with me as always is the person who doesn't run for miles but for Cubitos.
Ugh, Sarah.
And today we're reviewing Cubitos. Sarah, tell us a bit about this game.
Right. In Cubitos, players take on the role of participants in the annual Cube Cup, a race of strategy and luck to determine the Cubitos champion. Each player has a runner on the racetrack and a support team, which is represented by all the dice you roll. Each turn you roll dice and use the results to move along the racetrack, buy new dice, and use the dice abilities. But you must be careful not to push your luck rolling too much, or you could bust. So, Will, why did we get this?
We were reviewing Math Trade and we're just looking for stuff to try out.
Yep.
And we ran across a number of people who had Cubitos on there. And so we tried for it and got it.
Yep, that's it in a nutshell. So what do we like about the game?
I think it's the emerging impact that your decisions have on the game. Because during the course of the game, you'll be buying different colored dice to add to your pool, which is your race team, your support team for your racer. Every choice you make, you can see, has a rippling effect, and
Good or bad.
Good or bad, and it becomes more prevalent the longer the game goes on.
Right. So your decisions are important, but sometimes you may not realize them. Like your early on decisions, you're like, especially if you're playing with a new ability that you're not like 100% sure of, you're like, okay, that seems neat. Yeah. You buy it and you're like, oh, this is great. And then you buy too much of it and then you're like, oh, now something doesn't work right or whatever. Or
you eliminated the dice that would work well with the strategy that die entails.
Or you get to a synergy or strategy that works really well and you surge ahead and you win.
Yes.
So it is really interesting on how that works, especially with what's really nice about this pool building. It's, akin to deck building, is unlike some other games that have this kind of mechanism. This one has a really good way to slim down your dice.
Yes. Well, the other thing is it has a good player choice, player agency, because a lot of these games that have a die mechanism, you're pulling blindly from a bag.
Right.
So it's just the chance of you getting a thing you want. Right. Whereas this one, when it comes to putting things in your roll phase, you'll look at your draw and you choose what you put in your roll. So you can actually leave things for later, plan your turns out.
So yeah, that combination of being able to thin things down as well as choose. I mean, eventually you will have to use all the dice in your active. But if you have more dice than what you can roll, you can select. And that's actually really great because then you can set up. If you're like, well, this die really won't work well with anything I'm rolling now, I'm purposely going to leave it for next turn. So that's another, like you said, player choice, player agency that is really good. And yeah, I don't know that I've necessarily really seen that in a lot of other games.
Yeah, I know we've played other die bag builders.
Pool building, and bag building.
The problem is, I have a great strategy, I never see it.
Yeah.
This one, you'll always see it.
Yep. Well, especially because there's no actual bag in this case, so everything is out on your player's sheet in one of the 4 sections at any particular time.
Yeah.
So everything's out there. And, okay, for those who like push your luck, this can be agonizing in the best of ways. It's just I just want one more ability so that this works that way, but then you're afraid if you roll and you bust, well, this is one of those games where you don't get I really appreciate Quacks of Quedlingberg because if you bust, you still get to either buy or gain points. And that's a really neat thing about that game.
Yeah.
But with this one, if you bust, you're not using any of your dice. You get a consolation, which I do appreciate. I wish the consolation was a little bit better.
Yeah,
but it's still something.
Yeah, because there's a fan track, and on the track you can get credits, which are money that can be banked.
Yeah.
Or it can be the draw hand limit, where it means you're going to be rolling more dice from that point on for the rest of the game. So the benefits are really great, but they are kind of spaced out.
Yeah, and it takes a while to really get to the good ones on that track. So that's why I'm saying is that the push your luck can be really agonizing, but it's a satisfying agonizing, not just I just screwed up my whole turn, and that just has a ripple effect for the rest of the game type of thing.
Yeah, and there's also times where maybe you do want to bust, because
True.
there are cards that get better the further up the fan track you are.
That is true.
And
I remember one game you were trying to bust and the dice wouldn't let you.
Yeah, I was just getting all these dice stacked up, and then finally I was down to like 2 dice left, and like, fine, I'll just take a great turn, I guess.
I guess it's not what I wanted to do. I wanted to move up the fan track, but the dice won't let me, so that is kind of an odd thing.
Yes.
But it's a good thing. Again, it gives players choice. Yes, there's randomness. And yeah, sometimes that will bite you in the butt, but it still gives you a lot to work with. And speaking of that, there's a lot of variability to the game. There are 4 different racetracks. That's a lot. So it's 2 boards, they're double-sided, and there's simple boards, and then there's more complex ones. And they're the ones that have the water are the really complex ones, because you can't normally move through water unless you have special dice that let you do that.
Yeah. Speaking of special dice, there are 8 different colored dice.
Yeah, 8 dice.
And each die has 7 cards that can be chosen for any one race. Talk about a massive amount of...
Now, the good news is that sounds overwhelming, but they do have setups. So, like, there's I forgot what they call it, a circuit, where you play several races in a row, not all at once, like in one day type of thing.
Yeah.
But you could do that and you would experience, so it's 7 races because it uses each card individually.
Yes. So you get to see all the different cards paired up in different ways.
Plus, there's also a smaller circuit of, I think, like 3 or 4 races where they're like, this is if you want a challenge. And so I think they picked cards and race tracks, because that's the other thing, is it picks a racetrack. And that makes it really, challenging of, here's, some more complex abilities. Can you get through this track? So there's a lot that it gives you to play with. And then there's rules on, setting it up randomly yourself.
Yes.
So that is really nice. What do we not like about the game?
The boxes are cute and clever.
Yeah.
They store your different colored dice, and then they're flipped over and become dice trays.
And the side of the box will show you all the die faces for that die type.
Yeah.
So there's useful information.
Extremely helpful box. They're really, really hard to open.
They're really hard to open. It's just cardboard. It's like a tuck box for cards, but it's a tuck box for dice. And you have to open it and close it, at least twice when you're playing a game, once to get the dice out and once to get the dice back in. They're difficult to open, and that I feel like they're going to tear every time I try to mess with it.
They're going to be the first things they were replacing.
Yeah, so the good news is, go to Board Game Geek. They recently, as of the recording of this video, just came out with Geeked Up Bit boxes for this. The boxes themselves are pretty good price. I think it was 20-ish bucks.
Yeah, 20-ish.
Shipping, shipping's not happy right now. So we're waiting to try to get a few other things from the Geek store to make shipping worth it. But there's also Etsy. There's a lot of 3D printers that have made boxes. And the neat thing about everything we looked at, they all have a lid that pops up that can hold the card upright. So that also might help with that accessibility issue of those cards being kind of small and being references. So probably if you really, really like this game, you're going to want to replace those boxes.
Yeah.
Neat idea, not best implementation. The issue I think I had more is it really felt like the game started off slow. And a lot of other people feel that too. And so I looked at some of the different variants. And we actually tried one that we like, and it's very simple. So normally you start with 7 light gray dice and 2 dark gray dice.
The light gray dice have one less side than the dark gray.
Well, yeah, basically the light gray have one side.
Yes.
That has 1 money.
I think so.
And then the dark gray has 1 money and a foot, the movement. Yes. Thankfully, they included extra dark gray dice. So up to 4 players, you could have each player have 3 dark gray dice. So to keep the balance of number of dice the same, you do 1 less light gray, so you do 6. And you do 1 more dark gray, so you have 3. It's a very small difference, but we felt it sped up the game pretty well without breaking it.
Yeah, we got to the meat of the game quicker.
Again, without any imbalances of, if you do like everyone gets to draft a colored die, well, the effects are different, so it might affect people differently.
Yeah, and they're also all different costs based on whichever card you
Yes.
draw. So, and you can't just necessarily give them all the same die.
Right.
Then it's weird.
It's weird. So that was a very simple fix that we felt didn't break the game and help speed it up. But even with that, I will say the intro, the beginning part of getting to where it felt like you're really doing something, still takes a bit of time. The good news is that's it. Those were the only two issues we had with the game.
Yep.
So who this is for? Well, this is that weird kind of medium light game. So it's hard to recommend because not everybody's going to want that kind of level. But
I think it's because of the time it takes.
Yeah.
Really.
So it's going to be for casual gamers who want a longer game because the concepts are not too complex, but it is longer. And then for the, heavyweight, gamers, this is going to be that lightweight game, but still a long game.
Yeah.
So you're still going to have a good experience, but it's not going to overtly tax you.
Well, like, for example, maybe you planned a long game day. This is the kind of day you can, or game you can kind of float through while you fill in that time. Maybe someone else is playing a really big, long 4X game. And you need a light filler before they're done and you're ready to recombine.
Yeah, that's true. Because if you're doing a really long game day, you're not going to, well, at least for me, I'm not going to play a lot of heavy games all in a row. So this is that good refresher between heavy games, but still has a long time, game time.
Yeah.
All right. Let's go on to our ratings.
For our ratings, we each have 1d6 worth of ratings to give. 1 is low, 6 is high. We give a number, a reason why. Add them together and see what it rolled for us. Sarah, what did Cubitos roll for you?
It rolled a 4. I do really enjoy this, the dice building. I generally don't like race games, but I was fine with this one because it doesn't have a lot of negative. In fact, there's no negative player interaction that I can think of. We didn't play with all the cards, but I would imagine none of them have.
You have like the swords with the crab where you kind of compete, but it's not a punish the other player sort of thing.
So for that kind of relatively going solo, because you can't block anybody, I really appreciate all the different elements that this does. It still just comes down to there's some things it's hard to explain that it just, certain small things just get a little frustrating for me. And so it's not the perfect kind of game for me. I also do feel it is a little overly long. So I'm not always going to want to feel up for it considering the weight. Like there are other lightweight medium games that have a shorter playtime that I might want to play more than this one. That's kind of where I'm at. And so I think it's a solid game, just not one that I'm always going to be clamoring to want to play.
Okay. Since we came into this pretty blind,
yeah, we did.
I was like, oh, this is literally a roll and move game.
That's true.
And so my opinion was, oh, it's a 2. And then we started playing it. And I'm like, okay, I kind of like what we're doing. So then, it moved up to a 3. Then I saw the mid-game start kicking in and really seeing how the dice interacted with each other and how the board started adding its effects. So it popped up to a 4. Then we got to the tail end of our first game and it became this very dynamic push your luck. Who's willing to push just a little bit harder? And it was a complete nail biter.
Oh, yeah. It was you're a little bit ahead, you're a little bit ahead.
And that pushed me to a 5. It was a game that grew on me.
Yep.
And because of that, I'm definitely looking at, okay, we're going to have, let's actually look at the things that I don't like the boxes. I'm definitely going to want them to be upgraded. Let's really consider putting more money into this. And there is the expansion that's coming out.
Yeah.
We're probably going to wait on that.
Well, it's on crowdfunding.
With a number of other expansions.
Yeah, with a number of other expansion. It is discounted, but with the way shipping costs right now, it kind of, the shipping makes up for the discount unless you're buying all 4 expansions for 4 different games. So yeah, we're going to wait for retail so that we can save on shipping by buying other games with it or something like that.
But that's going to give us more dice,
yes,
more race tracks.
There's 2 new dice types and new racetracks and new cards for the existing dice.
Yes.
So it's going to add a whole lot, even more variability and variety. That's just going to keep the game fresh and fresher.
And this already has a ton.
Yeah. Oh, I think the new expansion will also expand the player count. I just can't remember if it's to 5 or 6 players.
I want to say it was to 6.
Okay. Which would be great for a lot of people because I can really see people having a really good time with this with 6 players, even with the competition over the dice. But with the new dice colors, that might open up the space really well for a 6-player game.
Yes.
So yeah.
So 9 out of 12, really good score.
Yeah, no, this is a really solid game, and I'm now looking forward to the expansion to see how that changes things up.
All right. And Sarah.
Yes.
Why do you think people thought Cubes Racing was the right shape for a race game?
I think it's more just that people roll dice so much as gamers that it's just such a common thing.
But they're flat boxes. They don't run. They just kind of
roll.
Sit there and mock me.
Well, what would you choose?
Probably little marbles, but then you'd never find them anymore.
Yeah, they'd roll right off the table. So there you go. There's your answer. They're cubes, so they don't roll off the table.
So they can mock you. And we've been Rolling with Reviews. And remember, if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, you can reach out to us on the various social media platforms at
Rolling with 2. That's TWO. We are on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. And on YouTube, please like and subscribe.
And if you have time, check out the other content Nanaman has found for you. Because remember, he's rolling with you.